Hey everyone, welcome back to Experience This Travel Show. We are at episode 9, and my name is Lori Timoney. I'm the CEO of Insightful International, a tourism consulting business. And I'd like to turn it over to my co-host to let them introduce themselves. Bruce?
Thanks, Lori. Bruce Rosard here. I'm one of the co-founders of Arrival, and I'm really enjoying this Experience This show that we're doing, and look forward to more and more. And today's session is going to be interesting. Christian.
Hey guys, Christian Watts, CEO of Magpie. Yeah, I'm excited. We're going to talk about some sort of general news stories today, and I'm going to talk about an upcoming show that I'm looking forward to. So yeah, happy to be here. Back to you, Lauren.
Yes, so we are really excited about our first LinkedIn Live session coming up. So we're going to, in 2 weeks' time, have a show that we'll be putting out there on LinkedIn Live, and we'll make sure to keep everyone up to date on that. But we're going to talk a little bit about it today because it is something we've not done before. It's a sort of a pitch show that Christian's going to kind of intro for us. And so pay attention if you're really interested in ChatGPT, if you have incredible ideas around this, or you just want to listen to people that do. Christian, do you want to jump in and tell us all about it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so some people might have seen these on or listened to these on Clubhouse. We did sort of a weekly travel pitch show. So we're going to do the same. This one's a bit different. We're going to do 2 shows on ChatGPT or AI or GPT, anything in that space. Generative AI is kind of what the sector's called. So the first show we're going to do is on the February 15th. We're going to have 4 to 5 companies pitch their product in 3 minutes, and this is going to be a fictional product. So what we're looking for here is creativity. So I want to hear people that, imagine you've got $150,000. It's kind of an arbitrary number. You've got to release this product by June using ChatGPT or something similar. So we want to hear ideas for actual companies that you could build, or maybe you are building right now, to release a great product by June into the travel sector. Experiences is great, but it could also be a different sector of travel, which is also fine. So this is not necessarily real companies. This is fictional ideas, and it's all about creativity. So looking at what generative AI could do and looking at how we might apply that. So
Christian, what are the points that you're going to ask people to fill in to the application process to discuss their idea?
Yeah, so it's a little bit like for those that have done pitches before, a little bit like a pitch deck, but because it's not a real company, we don't care how much money you're trying to raise and how you're going to spend the money. So we're looking for the market that you're in. The market would be, I'm in experiences section or experiences sector or hotels or air. What's the problem you're trying to solve? So what's the point of your software? What's the product? That's where the focus should be. What's the product to solve the problem? And then how are you going to get this to market? Probably less attention on go-to-market. We're not trying to scrutinize how you get this thing to market. We're looking at the product.
Go ahead, Laurie.
How long are the pitches? So if I'm preparing something, what's the scoop on that?
3 minutes max. So that's
3 minutes max.
Short. It's short. We don't want people to drone on about things.
Do we need to have a special rule for Alex Bainbridge?
Wow, Bruce, that is really okay. So and then what happens after the 3 minutes? Q&A?
Yeah, Q&A. And again, for this first one, it's not about scrutinizing it. We're not going to say, well, how are you going to build that, and how's that API going to work? It's not about that. It's about scrutinize. It's about looking at the idea, and is that a sensible idea? And if your pitch is, hey, I'm going to make a chat bot that answers questions, well, first of all, we're not going to have you on the show, but that's not interesting, right? It's got to be something creative. So we're going to talk about why this may be a good idea, and do we think it might work? And it's to give maybe startup companies ideas of what they should be building. I'm sure a lot of companies are already building this stuff. Sorry if you're already doing this in the background and somebody's takes your idea and pitches it in public, but that's life.
So you said something about if you have a good idea. So what do you think is a bad idea?
Well, I've looked at a few. There's not many tools out there right now, and we talked a bit about this in the past, Laurie. It's very easy to take a simple GPT integration right now and put a chatbot out there, and you could put a chat in half a day. You could have a chatbot on your website, and you could ask questions like, "What can I do in 5 days in Japan?" And it will just ping ChatGPT, or it'll ping GPT. Similar, but the API is only available on the older version, and it will come back and it'll give you 5 great things to do in Japan, great things to do in those 5 days in Japan. Very simple, but you can also just do that right now on ChatGPT in about 5 minutes, in less than 5 minutes. That's not that interesting. That's something we all have access to today. We need you to think further than that.
Itinerary planners, in my mind, are also simply not interesting. I've seen so many of them over the years, and I can't count on more than one hand any that have been successful. So if you're thinking about an itinerary planner and using GPT for that, sure, feel free to apply, but it's going to be hard to at least get my vote to be on the show.
It's different this time, Bruce.
Okay,
Christian, I want to hear all about this. I haven't seen one that I'm too thrilled about, so I want to hear about what you have to say.
Well, what Bruce is referring to, I think, and what folks that have been around a while that have seen pitch decks, and it's somebody that comes on stage or they present their slides, and the first slide is travel is broken. And then the next slide is the average person goes to 34 websites to book their travel, blah, 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 which is all true. And you could argue, it is a fair argument to say travel is broken. There's been a million companies that tried that and they've all failed. I think that's what you're kind of referring to, right, Bruce?
Yeah, even there's been some that, oh, we're going to take your Facebook community and friends and look at what they might recommend based on where you're going. And we're going to also tie that in with an API to TripAdvisor and, all that stuff. And, bottom line is this: when you go on vacation, in my mind, you'll wake up in the morning and, okay, guys, at least with my family, what do you want to do today? I don't need an itinerary planner for that. I need to know what do I already know that I want to do, the kinds of things. Maybe there's some things you buy in advance if you need to, but I'm not getting a 7-day itinerary planned. I mean, do you guys?
Well, I don't have any. I've never had anyone plan an itinerary for me because I really enjoy planning itineraries and I'm good at it. It's my background. So I would never think to go to anyone else to plan my itinerary. And I think that a lot of what you're talking about really goes back to personalization, which is one of the root problems of all of the different online travel options out there, right? It's like you can't have someone tie together, different portions of a travel journey and fashion them into what you want, unless that company knows what you want. And so then it all comes back to the whole thing around, how does a company find out what you want? Well, then that goes into the whole loyalty thing, and or how does a company or whomever get that information from you? Data protection laws, all that kind of thing gets tied into it. But from my standpoint, that it has to be something that repetitively understands who you are, right? And apparently AI is already, or has the ability to do that. If you continue to feed it information over and over and over and over again, it will develop something that is appropriate for you. I mean, am I sort of in the right place, Christian, with what I'm thinking of here, or am I completely off the beaten path?
Well, I might do a pitch at our own pitch session in this space, because I think this is an interesting application. And I think it's interesting because everyone's failed so far at this itinerary planning piece. And I think it's also interesting because a lot of things are possible now. And I've always argued against personalization because of what you just said, because to get a personalized recommendation on, say, TripAdvisor, you have to ask questions. Who you traveling with? How long you staying? You know, are you bringing the kids? All that stuff, and no one's going to answer questions before they browse. Now that's different, and that this wasn't available 4 months ago. Now with ChatGPT, potentially, and the reason is because it can do a semantic search, so you could just give it random thoughts, right? Like, hey, traveling with the kids, staying for 4 days. Hey, don't eat meat, blah blah blah, and it can take all of that into account and give you results based on that in a few seconds. And that's the kind of stuff that wasn't available a few months ago, or it was, but you paid tens of thousands of dollars to create each.
So listen, I think this is a show on its own, right? Like, we could talk about itinerary planning, personalization, loyalty, all that. Let's get back to this pitch that we're doing in a couple of weeks. So you've talked about like what the application is going to include, answering some questions. Is there anything else that people need to know about how they might be able to apply? By the way, I did put that out to Alex Bainbridge, and Alex, you are automatically approved as one of the pitchers. Wow. So there is that.
Well, you're approved because Bruce has already insulted you, and so.
No, he's approved because he's Alex Bainbridge, like the godfather of tourism activities technology. That's why he's approved. And he's still innovating. And I think we all respect that quite a bit. Is there anything else, Christian, that people need to know?
We're going to put a link below. So if you're on YouTube, look at the link below to a form, fill out the quick form with some of that information, and then we'll reach out. We do need to know by February 8th. Sometime after the 8th, we'll decide next couple of days, and then the pitch will be on the 15th. Oh, and then the last thing, so this is fictional company. We don't need you to be building this now. We don't need you to have a company. You could be an employee of Google thinking about how to build this thing. But then sometime after that, we're going to do a second show on actual companies with actual products. And we're going to scrutinize your actual product or actual plan. Probably test some of those products, maybe live, maybe not. We'll talk about it.
And at this stage, there is no prize for winning. There's no competition. There is no winner at this stage, right?
Well, no, everything should have a winner. I mean,
Bruce, don't they get like a free arrival ticket or something?
Well, we could talk about that. Yeah.
You get an arrival T-shirt.
An arrival T-shirt. I don't even. Oh yeah, I do have some arrival T-shirts. Okay. Yeah. As of now, it's okay. So if you want it to be a competition, we'll talk about that. Whether it's we'll have a winner voted on by whoever's watching the live stream or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. So now that we've outlined the rules of the show and how it's all going to go, am I okay to now move on and ask Kristen another question, or? I just want to make sure I'm okay.
As long as Christian's done with his.
So Christian, we're talking about itineraries, and now I want to talk just a little bit about some of the itineraries that I've found when I've been playing around with ChatGPT. And I think that, you and Bruce and I chatted a bit earlier about the fact that so far, most of them seem pretty gray. I haven't had anything jump out at me that has been super creative. Now I try to add as many prompts as I can about what I like to do and who's going to be visiting and all that kind of thing, what kind of food I like to eat, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess when I travel, I really like something unique. I want something that is more than just the sort of the typical or standard hikes or, activities or attractions. Why am I not getting that? And also, where is this information coming from? Why does it seem so gray to me?
I'm sorry it seems so gray to you. So just a quick sort of summary on what ChatGPT does or did, or these are large language models, which if you've played with it, it tells you that every 5 minutes. And it tells you it can't search.
I'm not paying attention. I guess I'm not paying attention.
It just keeps repeating, I'm a large language model with no access to the internet and all this stuff. But it's basically it's scraped the internet up to 2021. I don't know the date, and it reads everything. It's read a lot of books, a few thousand books, and it just goes through it and it reads everything it can. It follows links from Reddit to find more links to good stuff. It looks at the popularity of those. It pays more attention to good content. So from what I've seen, the content it likes the best is Wikipedia. I've forgotten how many pages it is, but Wikipedia is generally the highest quality content it can find. It's read the internet. And when you ask it to create an itinerary, so what it does is it's read everything. It's got a massive brain, and it's remembered every single word it's read. So when you ask it to create an itinerary, it's not going back and looking at a page it scraped from this blog and then reproducing that list of things. It just knows everything about that location that's ever been printed on the internet, pretty much. And it's just making it up. It's like a concierge that knows everything. So when you ask it for the top 10 photo spots in San Francisco, it knows the top, and it does. It knows the top 10 photo spots. So I'd say a couple of things. First, your expectations. You're expecting it to do something more than someone that knows everything, but which is a little bit extreme.
Which sounds a little odd.
Lori is demanding that way, isn't she?
But
I suppose it's because it's my itinerary, right? And I know what I usually write or create when I create an itinerary. So yeah, I'm probably comparing it to that.
yeah, so I think you'll do well to challenge it on giving me, and this is a bland thing to ask for, but the top 10 photo spots is kind of the standard blog.
Yeah,
it's really good at that stuff. It comes up with the top 10 because it's read a lot of top 10 blog articles, and those are good, and it gets them right usually, and they are the best things to do. If you want to go deeper than that, you have to dig deeper, and that's when you learn about the prompts and how to then go back and forth and tell me more about this thing, and then give me the less common ones. And it's about just sometimes changing the words. You don't need to be a developer or anything. The great thing about this tool is it's for normal people. And it's for people that speak normal language. And that's how you get the best out of it, by asking good English questions. So I think people expect a lot. They expect to be able to type in, hey, send a letter to my partners to advertise a new product. And then it doesn't come out with a perfect letter. And it's like, well, it's not God, right? It only spits out what you tell it to, but it does know everything up to 2021.
All right. Well, I know we have to move on to the news, but before we do, I think when it gets to the point where it can comb all of the discussions in the forums on TripAdvisor, then I feel like it's really going to be quite formidable. Not that it isn't formidable now, but one of the things that I find most advantageous when especially if you're going to a new place, is to engage in those forums on TripAdvisor. There's absolutely nothing like hearing exactly what people experienced, and call this guy Joe, he's the best tour guide, and I mean, you don't get that in very many places. So I feel like that is a big piece, which of course they should be able to if they can get into TripAdvisor, but I don't know what the deal is with that. Like, is that's public?
Yeah, Bruce is going to get angry in a second, but he can chill for one more minute. I assume it's already read the forums on TripAdvisor. I don't know it has. I assume it's already read that. But you're right. That level of, when you go to this town called Joe, it's not going to start giving recommendations. That's where the layer has to fit in. That's where companies have to come along and create that layer and saying, I'm using the brain that knows everything, but it's not going to give you specifics like call Joe. So let me create a company on top that does what you want.
Does that?
Well, I think that's what's really super interesting, where most people are still concerned that jobs are going to be lost because of this. But companies and innovators and innovation is going to happen by companies and people who can build that layer on top of this. And I think that's just huge and unlimited. And time will tell who's going to win out on that. But, I mean, you're already doing it with Magpie, Christian. You have something out there that's really, really impressive. Are you allowed to pitch at our pitch show? Have we decided that?
Well, I think I can pitch, but I'll pitch the fictional piece.
Oh,
Maybe
you're
I'll
gonna pitch the fictional. Okay.
because the Magpie tool, it is live. We're doing testing with clients this week. Maybe I'll pitch it the second one.
Okay.
But I want to do 30 more seconds on it. If you watch interviews with Sam Altman, he's the CEO of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. The interesting thing is he talks about they're releasing things in a manner that we can handle it, as in the human race. So they've got stuff that they don't release because we'll fall apart because we can't handle it. And he talks about not what the next tool is going to be, but he talks about capitalism maybe will fail under this new model. So that's how I think about this.
That sounds like another whole show. All right, well, let's move on to the next thing. So we know that well, just today Google announced, or Skift announced, that Google had laid off something like 10 to 12% of their folks in their Google Flights division. And Christian, I know you mentioned that there were some updates with Google Things to Do. I guess the first thing is, when it comes to Google Flights, like, why did they do it? And there's speculation that maybe they're going to be putting more of an emphasis on some of their other verticals, like Google Things to Do, and they're going to be looking, at hotel and vacation rental, and perhaps they're making more money with their, with their ad opportunities, and so it doesn't make sense for them to be putting as much money into Google Flights. I don't know. Do either of you have any sort of comments or thoughts on what they're up to?
I don't know as much about the flights. I read the Skift article. It's a really good article that goes deeply into what Google Flights was and is, and that does go quite deep into the technology behind some of the flights. And I think those are some of the people that were cut. The article does say that they're going to pay more attention, as you said, to the hotels and Things to Do. The Things to Do team seem optimistic right now on how things have been going. Even since the cuts, they still sound optimistic. I don't know if there've been cuts in that team, but I haven't heard about them.
I haven't heard about cuts on that team. So Google Things to Do, optimistic. What anything new there that you're aware of? I mean, you work closely with these guys.
Yeah, there was just a small thing. I put this out on Entrepreneur Facebook group yesterday, but they did make a change last week. So you can, and this is Google Things to Do only, but it's important in a wider context. So when you post your reviews, so you can post your review count and your review score on your Google Things to Do listing. If you want that to show up, you have to also show that information on your product page. And that's a new change which they've started enforcing. The reason it's important is because Google wouldn't do that if it wasn't important. So most, I think, products don't have reviews showing on their product pages. They've kind of left that to the OTAs or to TripAdvisor. But now Google sees that as important because people like to see the reviews. And if you're showing it on the front, they want to see that it's on the back.
I want you to clarify that. This is really important. So slow down for a second and clarify. You said that if you have reviews on and you use this terminology, Google Things to Do page. I don't think I have a Google Things to Do page as an operator. Is it my business page that you meant? What did you mean there?
Sorry, if I said page, I meant Google I meant Things to Do listing. So you get a listing on Google Things to Do. So
no, the listing is by product, right?
Yes.
But you said that if you have it, let's just clarify. You're not going to, right now, most companies do not have a review, the reviews on their product, which is your point. Get your reviews on your product listing pages. Mm-hmm. That's important to Google Things to Do search in the algorithm now. But they already can have their reviews on their Google My Business page, but they're just not transitioning over to the product page. So that's the change. Yeah.
Let's keep Google My Business out of it, Google Business Platform out of it for this conversation. So your Things to Do listings are currently showing up on the carousel if you pay for it, on the point of interest searches, and on some standard searches, depending on various keywords. On those little listings or product sections that you get on Google, you have your company name and an image and this description and stuff, and you can have your reviews showing up.
So that's
People,
a product level listing. And
yeah, and people
that's
click on the ones with review when they have reviews on there. People click on those, and
Yeah.
all OTA listings on Google Things to Do have reviews on them. So those are getting all the clicks. So if you're a company that doesn't have reviews on your product page, you can not have reviews on your Google Things to Do listing. Therefore, you're not going to get the traffic.
Okay.
So does this only apply to somebody that's integrated with Google Things to Do?
It's very specific that it only affects your Google Things to Do listings or Things to Do products. So but the wider thing is that it's important. You need to have, if Google Things to Do team is enforcing this, then assume at some point google.com might. So when you get your google.com listings, if you want your reviews, you need that to be in your product page as well.
Okay.
No, I think it's
All
really
right.
clear. I think I was confused the way you first put it out there, but bottom line is make sure that your product pages have reviews.
Yeah.
And then Google Things to Do will find that product more easily, as long as, like you said, Lori, they're connected, that you're connected to Google Things to Do through one of Google Things to Do connectivity partners, like a Magpie, like OTAs, like ResTex, like Livin, etc. Right? I think that's.
So if you're not connected to Google Things to Do and you don't sell your product on any other platform, this doesn't even apply to you.
It doesn't apply in that nothing changed last week, but it applies in that you should get your reviews on your product page anyway. Because if Google cares to make this change, that's because customers care. And Google has the data to say that customers care about reviews on every page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
cool.
Okay.
All right. So any other news that either one of you have? I was noticing something today. Actually, I think it was Web and Travel that I found it. AirAsia. So we were chatting about AirAsia in our recent APAC episode. And we were actually talking about super apps at the time and whether or not we all thought that, there would be a super app come out of the space, APAC space. And I think at the time, our guests were saying that they really didn't think that there was going to be a super app, that AirAsia particularly, people go to AirAsia because the flights are inexpensive. There's not this, huge sense of loyalty, which was interesting because this article that I was reading, first of all, the CEO, Tony Fernandez of AirAsia, came out to say, okay, he's killing the idea of a super app. So not going to go that route, but is going to build up his app for travel specifically. And he's going to be selling airlines. In addition to his own airlines, he's going to sell others. So he's selling other air tickets or other airline tickets, hotels, ride sharing, and food delivery. So that is definitely going outside of the travel space, the food delivery piece. And then there'll be insurance, travel insurance, and lending as well. So he's going to focus on an app that will be definitely more geared towards travel. But what he did mention is that he's got 51 million members in his loyalty program, 12 million of which are active. So I thought that was definitely apart from what I was hearing in the APAC session from our guests. They were more or less saying, no, nobody's really loyal to AirAsia. So I wonder how he's getting people to sign up for his app, and it must be just one of those things where it's just easier to get your ticket and easier to take the journey. But anyway, I thought that was something that was interesting considering we just had the APAC show. Either one of you have any other news, Bruce?
Well, I want to respond to that in a different way. Like, that's not super app, right? That's just marketing using the power of AirAsia as an airline throughout Asia, and their millions and millions of followers, whether they're loyal or not, which we were told there's no loyalty because it's all about price, which is obvious on most airline things, unless it's, you know, really the corporate travelers who are going to be loyal travelers. But it's really just a matter of selling multiple products in one place. So in our space, you got to look at Klook. And I don't know if you've all paid attention to what Klook has done recently, but if you go to Klook's website and you look at the categories now, things to do is one of the categories. Klook started as things to do, experiences, you know, OTA basically, right? That's how they started. And that is now one of the main nav items. You also have places to stay, including hotels and staycations. You also have transport, including trains and buses, public transport. You also have cars for car rentals, motorcycle rentals. You have events and movies, food and dining, insurance, Wi-Fi and SIM cards, which they've always been known for. So, you know, it's basically just Klook is turning into, instead of an OTA for tours and activities and experiences, they're basically turning into an overall OTA plus. I mean, events and movies and food and dining and everything. So that to me is a really interesting move by Klook and what they're doing.
It's funny, Bruce, when I was going to jump in right before you started talking, and I was going to mention Klook and go through exactly what you just did, and we didn't talk about this prior.
Great minds, Christian. Great minds.
There you go. But that is the way it goes, right? The Asian companies, they go horizontal. Johannes did an interview on Skift recently where he talked all about more vertical, more focus on just the experiences niche. It's two very different ways of thinking. It would be interesting to do a show just on the OTAs directions, you know, see how they've all gone and how they're all trying to differentiate in the future. But I did want to ask you, Bruce, we've got sort of conference season, if you like, coming up again. We've got ITB coming up in March in Berlin, and I know right before that is Arrival. What are we expecting? Is ITB back to normal? Is Arrival normal now? This will be your first.
Yeah, so I'll address ITB
Berlin
first, and I don't have direct experience, but I'm hearing in the US market, a lot less operators, big attractions are going to ITB. Brand USA isn't coming to ITB, which they kind of pulled out of WTM and ITB, so they do their own shows in Europe. So if Brand USA isn't there, that takes away funding and opportunity for a lot of the US-based attractions to participate. So I've been hearing that from the US perspective, at least, there will be quite a bit lower participation, but I haven't heard about from Europe and Asia. I don't know. You know, I do know that they have less real estate within Messe Berlin by a long shot. So any of you who've been to ITB, you know Messe Berlin is that huge convention center trade show, and ITB usually takes up almost the entire thing. Well, they're taking up less space this year. I don't know exactly how much less, but definitely less space. They're still doing content. They're reducing some of the content they do. The tour and activities content is on Wednesday. That is March 8th. And it's a number of smaller, you know, 100, 200 person content sessions that they're going to have. We're going to be participating in those. We, meaning Douglas, will be presenting a couple of those sessions. He's also presenting the day before on Tuesday. I believe Johannes and I don't know exactly who else I should, but I don't, on more of their main stage, 600 or 700 people. So I believe it's going to be scaled down a little bit. It's the first ITB since 2019, because they did not go live last year like WTM did. So it's, you know, they closed in 2020 for the pandemic. So that's going to be a lot of the energy is first time back for ITB, even though all the other shows have opened. Yeah. So we'll have to see.
How's Arrival shaping up? What are you expecting for that?
You know, so Arrival looks great. You can go, the speaker roster is awesome. The content is awesome. The registrations in any event this year are always much more last minute than they used to be. So if we get the push we're expecting in the next 45 days, then we're going to hit our budget of 700 to 800 people, which is great for us. That, you know, the biggest event we would have had in Berlin would have been 2020 with about 800 people. So we're hoping we're getting pretty close to back. Overall, we're at about 75% of where we peaked in 2019, counting Vegas It's what we're looking at for Berlin to at least get to 75%. Same thing. I think we'll go higher in Bangkok for our event in June there. And those of you that know what Arrival does compared to ITB, it's just much more intimate. Everyone there is in tours and activities compared to the huge trade show buying and selling that happens at ITB.
Yeah, I recently was.
Sorry, Laurie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was reading, I think it was LinkedIn, could have been Facebook, but somebody was asking the question, how do you even do ITB? It's ridiculous. Like, how do I get appointments? How do I, and, there were some people that were just chiming in saying, grab a seat at the bar and just, do your appointments there, buy beers, do whatever. Like so it's interesting. I would love to just chat with different people about their strategies on managing some of these. ITV, I always felt like was just so incredibly overwhelming. I never felt like it was one of my better trade shows just because of the sheer numbers of people. So I don't know, Christian, what's your strategy at ITV?
Well, when I've done those shows, I've had a Jessica, who's German, as you know. You gotta be prepared and organized, and there's a ton of work up front. There is for things like IPW as well, but IPW is just so well structured. It's so much better than all these other trade shows for getting just appointment after appointment. Just the way it's done, but they're different.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on your goals, and at WTM, you, Lori, and Anna sat at a coffee shop, and everyone came to you, and you had all the appointments you wanted, and that worked. WTM is a big show. I mean, how many people go to WTM? 30,000 people, but it feels a lot smaller compared to ITB that gets 70 or 80,000 people. That's not that's a huge show. The one piece of advice is, if you're going to ITB and you expect to be having appointments, you need to plan almost a half hour in between every appointment to be able to find the next appointment.
That's right. Exactly.
If you're at hall 4.1A and your next meeting is in hall 16B, besides trying to figure out where the hell it is, you got to work through the crowd to get there. And you really should leave almost a half hour in between appointments, or you're never going to be on time. Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. I think we probably are running out of time, though. Am I right about that, guys? I think we had a couple of meetings coming up. So And anyway, looking forward to the pitch show 2 weeks. We're going to have some information. Christian's going to get that up on LinkedIn. There'll be a link to a form you can fill out. Decisions will be made by the 8th of February. We're going to be pushing it out on LinkedIn Live, so look for some information on that. Get your great ideas together, and yeah, we're looking forward to it. So, anything else, Bruce, Christian?
All good?
No, all
Christian?
good.
All good.
Nothing more. Thanks, guys.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.